Jamie here, back with your weekly dose of milk, honey, and mayhem. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed. I really appreciate it. Every like, comment, and share really means the world to me. I especially love it when you guys reach out because I've mentioned one of your ancestors. I know that excitement myself. My Aunt Dixie and my mom used to love researching the genealogy. They were especially tickled when they traced their bloodline back to Benjamin Franklin. Me, I identify more with the roots on my pop's side. Straight Melungeon, heavy on the Cherokee. Speaking of natives, the Giles County annual powwow is fast approaching. It's going to be April 26th and 27th at the Giles County Ag Park from 10 to 5, with the dancing and drumming starting at noon. I will be out there filming that Saturday, so if you're there and you see me out, stop by and say hi. And if you can't make it, don't worry, that's going to be the following Sunday, the 27th's video, so you won't have to miss out on a thing. Something else you don't want to miss is today's tale, so let's get on into it. It was the fall of 1978, and the First Lady of Country Music, Tammy Wynette, was at the height of her fame. But a story would break one October night that would shock the world, and especially her fans. She claimed to have been abducted at gunpoint, beaten, and left stranded on a deserted road here in rural Giles County. Was it really just a random act of violence, or was there something more personal going on? Virginia Wynette Pugh was born on May 5, 1942 on the Mississippi-Alabama state line and was raised by her grandparents after her father's death when she was just 9 months old. As a teenager picking cotton on the farm, she dreamed of George Jones. She would go on to marry the possum in 1969. He would be her third marriage. Her first when she was only 17 years old. Now, raising 3 babies by herself required more than an occasional underpaid gig at a bar somewhere. So, in 1964, she went to cosmetology school as a way to support her family. Not only was Tammy Wynette beautiful and charismatic, but she had a voice like no other. Of course, she was destined for superstardom. She was well on her way when she married George Jones, but the pair of them took it to the next level. While that marriage was a hard one, full of drinking, drugs, and lies, it did give her another wonderful blessing, Georgette Jones, before their divorce in 1976. Now, after their D-I-V-O-R-C, the possum moved down to Florence, Alabama and bought a house. That's not too far from here, and as a matter of fact, our mayor, J.J. Brindley, owns George Jones's old truck. Tammy married another fella almost immediately, but that marriage wouldn't even last a year. Not one to wait, she turned around and married George Ritchie on July 6, 1978, but it was as much a business venture as a relationship. Almost immediately, strange things began taking place. Their home was constantly being broken into, their phones tapped. One night someone drew 8 X's across their house, and in one particular occasion, the house was set on fire 3 times in one night. October 4th, 1978, Tammy was shopping for a present for her daughter's upcoming birthday at the Kane Sloan department store in Green Hills. She had left her car unlocked, as we all did back then. I am very much a latchkey kid, but I never needed the key because our door was never locked. And because her door was left unlocked that night, she says that when she returned, she found a masked man hiding in the back seat. She told People magazine after the ordeal, "I felt a poke in my side and heard a man say, 'Drive.' All I could see was a brown glove, a lot of hair on his arms, and 2 inches of a gun barrel." She reported that the man strangled her with a pair of pantyhose and beat her repeatedly as she drove for hours along unfamiliar back roads. All at once, he told her to pull over and get out. Fortunately for Tammy, it was near the home of Junette Young, just outside the city limits of Pulaski. Now, Junette Young gave an interview to the Tennessean on October 5th and said, "Her neck hurt real bad and her mouth hurt where he had slapped her. I gave her a cold wet rag. Her cheek was skinned. Her neck wasn't cut, but it was swollen and red from whatever had been tied around it. She suffered a broken cheekbone and was badly bruised. What she was not was robbed or violated in a sexual manner. This is Tammy Wynette, country superstar. That's odd. The police in Nashville found that very puzzling, and they weren't the only ones who thought so. Folks spent hours talking on the landline speculating as to what could have happened. Some people thought that George Jones had something to do with it, seeing as how their shared daughter was almost kidnapped herself just a few days after this incident. And other people thought it was just all an elaborate publicity stunt. But the most popular theory was that she had been cheating and set the whole thing up as a way to cover her rear end. Now, she told the Washington Post that those speculations absolutely broke her heart, adding, "I don't know any woman who would want her face damaged. If I wanted attention, I'd go down to Possum Holler and dance all night." Possum Holler was a bar in Nashville owned by George Jones. Her current husband, George Ritchie, told People magazine that he thought he knew who was responsible and was going to put an end to it, stating that it was a professional job with some amateurish aspects just to throw us off. All of these failed marriages and the depression and anxiety she suffered led Tammy Wynette to be very good at throwing people off. Because everyone was shocked when she checked herself into the Betty Ford Clinic for rehab in 1986. See, she'd begun taking Valium in the early 70s as a way to calm her nerves before shows or interviews. She also had a hysterectomy around the same time and suffered immense pain due to the scar tissues that formed, which led her doctor to prescribe Demerol, a powerful painkiller. She noticed that it helped her mental anguish as well, so of course she took more than prescribed, and it wouldn't be too long before she had to move up to Demerol injections to stave off the withdrawals, but the doctor instructed her bandmates how to inject it. Addiction does not care how well you can sing, how much money you have, or how functioning you are. But boy, does all that money and access make it a whole lot easier. Tammy Wynette made sure to schedule in regular stops at hospitals along her tour just to re-up her supply. This addiction would ultimately lead to her death of a pulmonary embolism in 1998 at the age of just 55. But not before amassing the sale of over 30 million records, having 39 top 10 country hits, and winning 3 CMA awards. All while keeping the cosmetology license that she earned back in 1964 up to date, just in case she ever needed it to fall back on. Bless her heart. That simple farm girl passed away in a mansion once owned by Hank Williams Sr. Her final resting place is in the Woodlawn Memorial Park, one of the largest and most prestigious cemeteries in the state. Just 2 years after her passing, her daughter, Pulaski's own Jackie Daly, wrote a book titled Tammy Wynette, A Daughter Recalls Her Mother's Tragic Life and Death, and finally revealed the truth of what had happened that night in 1978. Turns out it was all just an elaborate hoax to cover up how badly her husband had beaten her that night after an argument, and she threatened to leave. That's always the most dangerous time. George Ritchie beat his wife, drove her to Pulaski, and planned the whole thing as a way to cover it up. Domestic abuse is more prevalent than we realize. If you're in an abusive relationship, you do deserve better. You are strong enough to leave, and you can make it without them. Please reach out for help, because there's so many of us willing to help, but you have to know your worth and make that choice. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Next week, we're venturing just outside the county to Fayetteville, Tennessee, home of the Slaw Burger, and I'm taking you guys along. So, gear up your taste buds for that, and until next time, y'all be good.